Well, good morning, everybody. And as we start off today, it was kind of interesting last night just looking at some of the weather data. We, of course, had Nicole briefly strengthen to a hurricane, and we had hurricane warnings out for parts of Florida. At the same time, there was an ice warning for parts of South Dakota and a blizzard warning for North Dakota. Now, could that be expected across such a large geographical area? Yes, but it was just kind of fun to be able to see something like that happening as we transition here into November. Now, in the overnight hours, we continue to watch this low that's right up here just really pull out of parts of Wyoming and start to emerge in Nebraska and South Dakota early this morning. So as the sun was rising, Nicole, of course, made landfall. The main frontal boundary is pushing pretty quickly toward the east. We're going to watch quite a bit of snow pile up on the backside of this. I'll give you the total snowfall amounts in just a few moments. So if we just look back before we see where all this is going, this is our last 7 days of total accumulated precipitation. And I make this map so that it goes through midnight. So this was early this morning. And just looking here at some of the places that have not received recent rainfall, because we're going to get a brand new drought monitor in about an hour after I record this. And I'll just be curious to see how much of an improvement the monitor picked up on from some of the very heavy precipitation in the west. And then the event we had last week that came through parts of the central United States. Now, there's a couple of places that over the next 10 days are going to remain dry, and I'm concerned about parts of the western plains and through here, and then pockets of the eastern Corn Belt not getting much of this rainfall. But the systems that are pulling through are going to start to relieve drought in other places. The main front right now at 7 a.m. was just barreling through parts of, western Iowa, but Nebraska and Kansas. So, for example, across the state of Kansas, we have almost a 45-degree swing in temperatures already. So this front's going to continue to advance, and the air behind it is quite cold, and we've been discussing how this is going to really stay in place for a while. And I'll give you kind of the latest updates on that very soon. Okay, here's our upper level pattern, and we do have quite a powerful trough that runs right here into this ridge that's right through the Hudson Bay. And underneath this is where we're expecting to see a pretty powerful low develop. So if we look early this morning at where the low is expected to be, we're going to be watching in through here for some pretty powerful cyclogenesis. In other words, the storm system is going to strengthen temporarily and then weaken as it goes farther to the east. So it's opening up a wide warm sector. We have seen a decrease in the risk of severe weather here, but the winds on the backside will be in that 30 to 40 mile an hour range, which is going to give us the blizzard criteria that's needed. Here's Nicole. And it's going to make a pretty quick turn and run right up along, just butting up against the Appalachian Mountains, and the remnants of it will make it clear to Maine. But I want to show you one other thing. This is stepping up in the atmosphere to about a mile above our heads. And what we're getting right in through here is a little bit of overrunning. And that overrunning is what's setting up in this area the risk for having some of that ice. And you can see that on our all hazards weather map. So blizzard warnings right in through here. We're surrounded by winter storm warnings and then winter weather advisories. But that shade of color you see right here, that is where we've got our ice storm. Now you saw on the backside how cold it is. We've got freeze and frost warnings out for parts of California. It's pretty foggy there too. There is a freeze watch down here in parts of Texas and New Mexico. And then this is all tropical storm warning, and we're expecting the wind field around this to be in that 30 to 50 mile an hour range as it pulls farther to the north here. So let's go right on into the high-res NAM, kind of pick up at 7 a.m. When I'm recording this and see where things are going. So again, the pinks represent ice, and the blue snow, and the green would be rain. So you got your two big systems we're keeping an eye on here. So by the time we get into middle of the afternoon, that's when we'll probably see the snow extent covering most of North Dakota. Heaviest snow is right over the Red River Valley, and we're going to see some winds on the backside of this, again, in that 30 to 50 mile an hour range. Same thing with Nicole as it pulls right over the panhandles and then starts to get pulled north. So I just kind of rock back and forth over tonight into tomorrow morning. You'll see the main frontal boundary finally pushing up against the outer bands of precipitation for Nicole. So this will hit part of the Ohio River Valley, southern and central Indiana, well, at least parts of east central Indiana, and they get cover most of Ohio. And that's going to all just push itself to the east. And behind it, some very cold air is going to be coming in for the weekend. So I'll park this out here Saturday morning. We'll see some lake effect snow. We kind of have this post-frontal band of showers in through here. And things are going to go a little bit quieter after this. It's going to be cold. We're going to see a lot of snow showers across the country. But overall, a quieter pattern follows this. Now, how much snow are we expecting? It's interesting. The models continue to pick up on relatively large amounts. We do need to be cautious in through here when we see the model picking up on these very large amounts. I think that the better way to think about it is there'll probably be 6 to 10 plus inches in this area, and some places could pick up over a foot. But it'll be the blowing and drifting that'll make this a pretty rough go, stretching across parts of North Dakota, getting into northern Minnesota. Now from here, I do want to just take a quick look at the severe weather side of this. And so you can see that we've kind of now seen the Storm Prediction Center reduce the risk for the storms out ahead of this. Will be a kind of a pencil thin line of storms that'll roll through here. But down into parts of Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, we are going to be on the lookout for some stronger storms. And then that translates a little bit farther up the coast as we get into the day on Friday. So much of the Carolinas here into Virginia, just be on the lookout for some stronger embedded storms in this circulation. So how much total precip are we talking about? Now notice first that we don't have any major systems following these two in the west. So the liquid equivalent, a lot of this is going to be snow here, is in that 1 to 1.5 inch range. There are places that are missed, like parts of the plains, getting over into this section of the eastern Corn Belt. But a widespread 1 to 4 inch rainfall event, heaviest right up along the Appalachian Mountains where they've put in, here in North Carolina, a flood watch this morning. And what's going on down here is we have another system that's going to roll out early next week that's going to move into this part of Texas. I'm going to show you that here by going right to the high-res European model. So we've already seen through Friday into Saturday, and let's park it out here Sunday morning. So what will be left of these systems will still be over parts of New England, but moving out, and then there's going to be a lot of cold air. See the lake effect snow coming in behind this. So as we play through the day on Sunday, this is Sunday night, getting out there into Monday morning, there's a short wave that sneaks around the trough and starts to merge in New Mexico and Texas, there it is, by midday Monday. And that low pulls out here, and I'm concerned that we could get some strong to severe storms in eastern Texas out of this. And the models for the last 2 days have been trying to put down some snow in the panhandles. That's how cold it is behind this. Now that system then moves and kind of follows this trajectory. And we typically see this when we have such large amounts of cold air that will advance all the way to the east coast. You tend to get a lot of these what we call like arc-latex lows. They tend to show up right here and move off in this direction. That tends to give some snow on the northern side of this. So this is now Tuesday midday, getting into Wednesday morning, afternoon, and evening, and you can see all of the cold air wrapping behind this. A lot of snow showers in place behind this. So I want to show you who's not getting the moisture, just as another perspective. It's going to be drier in the Canadian Prairie, drier in the west, drier in the parts of the plains extending into the western Corn Belt, and then drier right in through here. And we're looking at this primarily to see water that's going to flow into the major river systems in the United States, given how low, for example, the Mississippi has been. So just take this map into consideration when we're thinking about who's getting this precipitation and who's not. So what'll be interesting is that we will see improvements here, and we will be seeing major improvements pretty much everywhere. Or maybe I could redraw that and say it's more like that, everywhere to the east of those two arrows. But there will be pockets that are missing out on a lot of this precipitation. Now this pattern, by the time we get out there to November 20th, that's 10 days from now, is going to build into that pattern we've been discussing, that big Alaskan to Scandinavia ridge. That's that cross-polar ridge. And as we discussed, this really just allows for the pattern to dive into deeper troughs around the Hudson Bay. So this is a drier pattern for much of the United States. It is a colder pattern for much of the United States. But right here's what I want you to be watching. We know that the MJO is going back to phase 6. La Nina is making another surge. So you need to be keeping an eye on the Pacific. Well, I need to keep an eye on it because I think this is going to push through this ridge toward the week of Thanksgiving and really make the third and fourth week much more active across the United States and Canadian Prairie. In the meantime, though, the Arctic high that's going to come down behind this is really just going to really drop the temperatures. There's Friday's temperatures. And remember, the color shading is the anomaly. And we go into the weekend. That was Saturday and Sunday, and then into Monday and Tuesday. We just kind of sink into these, more winter-like temperatures across much of the country as this deep Hudson low takes shape. And it seems to last. You got November 15th through the 19th on the left and the 20th through the 24th on the right. So until that big ridge breaks apart over Alaska, which we think will happen, as we approach Thanksgiving, it's going to continue to be quite cold across much of North America. Okay, from there, I do want to talk, and we're going to talk more about this in tonight's in-depth report. Across Argentina, the deficits in precipitation are quite large, as you can see here over the last 60 days. And it doesn't matter where you go. If you go to Buenos Aires, if you go to Cordoba or Santa Fe, any of these locations, the deficit is there, which is what makes some of the precipitation coming in over the next 5 days, which will be widely scattered showers and thunderstorms, very important. It's going to just put a bit of a stop on the extensive drought there. But because the MJO is going back to phase 6, the La Nina is resurging right now, we do notice that as we pull here into the 15th to the 20th, and then into that third week of November, the drier air is expected to return. And this will be an important thing to talk about tonight, in that we continue to see very strong trade winds rebuilding in the Pacific, westerly wind bursts out of the Indian Ocean, and those two factors are the symptoms, the cause of this La Nina making this big surge. We need to see what that's going to do for the rest of November. So I look forward to giving you that update tonight, and until then, have a good one. Thank you.